Hi everyone, it's John Gualtieri here with this week's Power Shot. We're talking about some miscellaneous items that if we're not careful, they can kill us in our listing process. So today I'd like to address this whole idea of overpricing. Look, we've all taken overpriced listings except for me. And if you believe that, I'll lie about other things. So when we cannot get the seller to reconcile reality around price, provided that they're sufficiently motivated, we're going to take that listing if they're sufficiently motivated, and we're going to talk about a price reduction. So typically what we do is we discuss going back in a couple of weeks and say, gee whiz, Mr. Seller, if we're not getting any showings, we're going to have to revisit this in a couple of weeks and make a price adjustment. The seller says, yes, okay, we'll do that. And then we come around 2 weeks later and we talk about a price adjustment, and the seller oftentimes said to me, John, we listed at your price. So one of the things that you want to do is make a preemptive strike against that happening. And so what I learned to do is I would send the seller an email post-listing almost immediately, and I would say, dear Mr. Seller, dear Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you so much for listing your property with us. We're going to get to work first thing in the morning to get it on the market and get showings. As we discussed, the price that it's listed at now, that you want it to list at now, is pretty aggressive. If in fact we aren't getting any showings or activity, we'll revisit, as we agreed, this price issue in a couple of weeks. So when I would go back to the seller and I would say, listen, we need to talk about a price adjustment here, and the seller said, well, this is your price, I would say, gee whiz, I guess you didn't read my email, or I guess you had forgotten what I said in my email. And I always had a return receipt and the check the box that said that the seller read it, the recipient read it. So today's Power Shot takeaway is when you have a seller who overprices their listing, do not leave it hanging. Always send an email afterwards so that you can use it for ammunition if and when the seller tells you that they listed at your price. If you know anyone who might benefit from this week's Power Shot, please pass it on. And then in the meantime, get out there, chop wood, carry water, and do it like you mean it. God bless.